Hello everyone, my name is Brittney Jones and I am one of the apprentice DevOps engineers at Meroxa. And today I'm going to show you how to create a Snowflake resource on the Meroxa platform. So before we get started, I want to give a little background on what resources are. Resources abstract the configuration behind connecting to your data. They can be used as sources of data to your Turbine Data Application or as destinations of the processed data. Resources only need to be configured once on the Meroxa platform, meaning you don't have to worry about it anymore further down the road when it comes to building real-time data applications. Also, at the time of this recording, Snowflake is available as a destination resource on our platform. However, for more up-to-date information about our supported source and destination resources, you can see the integration page that will be linked in the description. Before you can create a Meroxa resource, we need to make sure that we have a Snowflake database configured and ready. If you are starting out with a fresh Snowflake account, you can follow along as I take you through the Snowflake UI. Otherwise, you can skip to the next step. I'm going to sign into my existing account. Now, before we can actually configure our database, we need to provide Meroxa with the necessary credentials to connect to our database. So we will first need to create a user as well as public and private keys that we can authenticate. So if you navigate back to the Meroxa docs on the Snowflake resource setup steps, you can see the OpenSSL command that will generate your private key and your public key. So you can copy that and navigate to your terminal. You run that command, your private key will be generated, and then a public key will be generated from your private key. You can list and make sure that they were generated. Now we're going to go back to the Snowflake UI and create our user. We're going to add the user and name them Meroxa user _ user. And for the sake of simplicity, we're going to uncheck the force user to change password on first time login. Since we aren't using the password to authenticate and are using key per authentication, this password will never be used. However, if you do choose to keep the box checked, you can make sure to reset your password. Otherwise, the password expires and then we will no longer be able to connect to your Snowflake database. So now that we have our user created and our public and private key generated, we now need to assign the public key to the Meroxa user. So in order to do that, you will first need to create a worksheet. And then if you go back to the Meroxa docs, we are going to use the SQL command that will assign this public key to the user. You're going to need to replace this placeholder with the public key that was generated. When you copy your key, make sure you don't include the delimiters. And paste it and run the query here. Okay. After that, we are now going to create our roles and our databases and schemas that are needed. So I'm going to create a new worksheet. And if you navigate to the bottom, you'll see all the commands. However, these commands do have to be executed one by one, but I'll show you how that's done. So we are going to create our schema first. Meroxa user then needs to be given the permissions to our desired database and schema. So in order to do that, we are going to create this role called Meroxa platform role and assign it to the user. So now that we have granted the role, the Meroxa platform role to the Meroxa user, we do have another option. If you go back to the Meroxa docs where you can restrict access to the Meroxa user to specific Meroxa IPs by creating a network policy and assigning it to the Meroxa user. So I'm going to take you through how to do that. So I'm going to copy the commands, head back to the worksheet. And again, you're going to run the SQL commands one by one. When you're creating the network policy, you have to replace these placeholders with the Meroxa IPs that can be found in our networking documentation. Go here and copy each one. And then run it. Run this. And that's it. So before we actually create the resource, you want to make sure that your database and schemas are created. So you're going to navigate back to the data tab, and you'll see here that our Meroxa database was created along with the different schemas. So now that that's done, we are going to move on to creating our resource. So you can do that using either the CLI or the Meroxa dashboard. First, I'm going to show you how to do it through the CLI. So when you come back to the docs, you will assign your private key to a environment variable called Snowflake private key. After you run that command, you will then copy the Meroxa resource create command and paste that into your terminal. You will need to replace the Snowflake URL placeholder with the account URL, and I can show you where that is located. Navigate back to the Snowflake UI and go here. You'll see this copy account URL. You'll copy that and paste that into the place where Snowflake URL was. You'll also need to delete the HTTPS as well as the colon and forward slashes, the extra ones that were there. And then you can execute the command, and then you will see that your resource was successfully created. If you also want to confirm, you can do a Meroxa resources ls. You'll see that your Snowflake database named Snowflake is created. So now I'm going to take you through creating your resource through the dashboard. So if you go to the meroxa.com, you'll see our main page. You can log in or create an account for free. Once you log in, you can navigate to your resource. You'll also see that the resource that we created is already there, and we're going to add a resource. Choose the Snowflake resource type. Since resource names also have to be unique, you can't use the same resource name for multiple resources. You're going to include the connection URL, which is our Snowflake URL database URL, and you can find that back in the same place, the copy account URL. Copy that, put it here. However, you will need to remove the HTTPS portion and replace it with the Snowflake key. And you will need to add this as well. The username will be the Meroxa user that we created, and the password will be the private key. And you click Save, and you'll see that your resource is created. That's it. Hope this was helpful. If you have any further questions, you can reach out to us on our Discord channel, which will be linked below in the description. Thank you.